Hello everybody, this is Tim here again, here another movie review, this time for Mad Max Saga Furiosa, or I believe what it's called, but pretty much Furiosa. This is a spin-off of Mad Max Fury Road. Mad Max Fury Road is a movie I really liked. I'm a fan of the Mad Max series. Beyond Thunderdome is probably the weakest, but none of these films are bad. This one included. This is not a bad film. This is all, I'll go ahead and say it, from 1 to 4 stars. I'd give it a solid 3.5. This is a really good, as a whole, film. With some great action at certain points. It is not a perfect film. There are some problems here. I would say I like this better than Beyond Thunderdome, which I still think is the weakest of the Mad Max series and franchise. But this would be like the second weakest. But again, that's not a problem. None of these films are bad. This is still a really good movie. It's easily a 3.5 out of 4. And I do highly recommend it, and I do wish it would have done better in theaters, because they were planning, George Miller wanted to do another Mad Max movie after this, which was going to be like a prequel to Fury Road also, which was going to be called Mad Max The Wasteland, which is going to be the story of, well, I guess whatever the hell happened to Mad Max before Mad Max 4 Fury Road. Yeah, this is the prequel about Furiosa. You got Anna Taylor-Joy as Furiosa, and like I said, this is not a perfect film. When the movie starts out, it's an interesting beginning, well done with some well done action. It does go on for a bit too long when you spend so much time with the child version of Furiosa, which is not played by Anna Taylor-Joy. After a while, I started saying, like, is she even in this? Like, it was starting to feel like a while before she actually popped up. And this is a long movie, but when she does actually pop up, the movie becomes much more about her character, especially by the end when it culminates in her getting her revenge. And she's pretty much kidnapped by Chris Hemsworth or whatever, his man. And Chris Hemsworth's family like died, and he wants to like force a surrogate family or whatever. At least he wants to like adopt her, I guess, and make her his kid. And he kills Furiosa's mom, who like tries to rescue her and shoots a bunch of people and everything. And Furiosa refuses to tell him where the green place is, you know, where she came from, where it's like this luscious green place, you know, where she was born or whatever. And she eventually writes down the instructions on her arm, which is the arm we know she's eventually going to lose by the end of the film. And one thing leads to another, and then they end up finding like Immortan Joe or whatever, who is like the bad guy in Fury Road. They find his citadel, and they want to get in there, and this is where you get the cool scene where he shows his power by having like the war boys like kill themselves and everything, like bomb and Chris Hemsworth man and all that, and he has to retreat, of course. And then this leads to basically a war between Chris Hemsworth versus Immortan Joe and everything, and he's like knocking out like his gasoline trucks and everything when they would be sent out from the Citadel, or sent out from the Citadel. I mean, and he would like be targeting them and everything. And you get some pretty cool action sequences in these scenes, especially later on where after like it becomes like after Furiosa turns into Anna Taylor-Joy, when they do like a huge time skip, and she becomes like Anna Taylor-Joy, and she's basically like working with one of the gasoline trucks trying to take it out, and like Chris Hemsworth men are like basically kamikazing with parachutes, throwing down bombs, trying to blow the damn thing up. A really well done action sequence. Problems with the film. Basically, when Chris Hemsworth does make it inside, and I believe he's got like Immortan Joe's brother like hostage, and he's threatening to kill him, and he's got like a device like attached to his own nipples. And one dude like walks over there, like one of Immortan Joe's kids, I believe, and like messes it up and causes it to like rip through Chris Hemsworth's nipples and like kills the dude. And Chris Hemsworth does a great job here. He's very charismatic. He is the best performance in the movie. But by the end of the movie, because it is about the Furiosa character, she is the one who gets the the most to do. I will say this film does become weaker towards the middle half after this part, because Chris Hemsworth's character just disappears, and he's like the highlight of the movie. He disappears for a while, but like I said, this movie is long, so when he does come back in closer towards the third act, he's in it for the whole rest of the movie after that when he comes back in. And of course, like pretty much Chris Hemsworth like sells his surrogate daughter, or who he wants to be his surrogate daughter, Furiosa's character, and she comes, and like one of Immortan Joe's like kids, like Rictus or whatever, like wants to like rape her, and she manages to escape by shaving her head and like putting her hair or whatever on her head as a wig, and he grabs it, and she like takes off. And this is when it does like a huge time skip into the future, and like Chris Hemsworth's got like gray facial hair and everything. But this is one of the weaknesses of the movie. Like she has the map and everything wrote down on her arm and everything as a little girl of how to get back home. And then she like it skips to the future and she's like much older, like looks like she's almost like 20 something or whatever, or 20, because Anna Taylor-Joy looks younger probably than what she is. I think she is probably even she's not old, but I think she really is like 24 or something like that, or 25. It got to be. But she could pass for like 19 or 20 here. But she has the map and everything, and the destination rolled down her arm to where she could find her way back home. But we do this huge time skip, and it's like in all that time you couldn't just sneak out of this place to like go find a vehicle or something somewhere. Like I don't totally buy that. Like it seems like she just forgets about wanting to escape and getting back home like later on in the movie, and that is when the film kind of loses me somewhat. Like she almost becomes accustomed to her lifestyle, which may be the point they're going for, but at the same time, it's a prequel, so she can't get home yet. So that does weaken the movie for me. And also at the same time, it does suffer from the fact that it is a prequel, so certain characters are going to die, and how certain things are going to come out in the end, because Furosia can't get back home. It's not going to happen here. And then you get a cameo later on in the movie by like who's supposed to be Mad Max, and he's like looking down or whatever from a cliff, looking at Anna Taylor-Joy as Furosia, like walking away with like her missing arm after he gets damaged by Chris Hemsworth in a battle later. And it's like, well, what exactly is the timeline here for this movie? Like it doesn't, I'm not sure it totally meshes up, because by the end she just transforms into Charlize Theron, like at the end when she finally captures Chris Hemsworth, and she turns him into fertilizer and like grows a peach tree out of him, I guess, and he's like still alive, and he's like smiling every time she walks in there, like picks off a peach. And there's a scene where she like walks in there at the end and picks off a peach, and she turns around and she's leaving the room, and and she just turns around and she transforms into Charlize Theron. So it's like, well, what the hell's the time thing here? Like, is Chris Hemsworth character like still alive in Fury Road, just as like still laying there as fertilizer for the peach tree, laughing about it, like, or like how is he even still alive when he like died of starvation? I mean, I don't know. It still makes for kind of a funny scene. But I'm guessing what they meant by that, of her like turning around to like transforming into Charlize Theron or whatever, was that it was supposed to signify like another time skip. I'm pretty sure that's what they meant by that. She starts to like the bond with this dude or whatever who's like transporting gasoline, is a really good driver, and they pretty much hint at like a love connection between them, which is probably what would have happened with them. But of course Chris Hemsworth captures him later, and you get a big like epic action sequence where him and Furiosa are like taking out all these people or whatever, and I believe in maybe Gastown, where they're like transporting gas there, and they get ambushed by Chris Hemsworth and everything and his men. But they do a good job of like taking a lot of them out, and it's a pretty cool action scene. I will say this: you do get 1 or 2 or 3 like digital shots in this movie that do look weak. And you get one that's kind of bad, where like Chris Hemsworth lets out like these dogs or whatever that he has, and they are digital, and it is extremely noticeable. That's probably the worst digital shot in the film. Of course, Chris Hemsworth eventually like captures the dude. He drags him with chains and all that, like across the desert and everything, until he's exhausted, and he's dead. You don't really see him die, but you just know he's dead. So by the time it gets to the end of the movie, Charlize Theron, Anna Taylor-Joy has had enough of this shit, so she goes to like take out Chris Hemsworth finally, and she like tracks him down to the desert as he almost gets away, and she tracks him down, and she takes him and knocks him out, chains him up, and then that's when he gives her a big speech about we're the same, and it works because Chris Hemsworth's acting is really good here, and then that's when she. It says like it's almost like it's saying like according to legend or whatever, that she shot him, but then no, she actually drug him home or drug him back to the Citadel and turned him into fertilizer or whatever. And that's what really happened. So yeah, it is funny to see that happen to Chris Hemsworth's character, because he's a major asshole. He's a total piece of trash. But at the same time, though, because this movie is trying to like be a prequel to Fury Road and focus on the Immortan Joe character and all that, you don't get as much of Chris Hemsworth and like as you would if he was like the one and only villain of the movie, because they got to give time to Immortan Joe and all that to set up Fury Road. Well, if there wasn't so much setup, I would say, I guess, to link this to Fury Road. If this was his own film, he would have been in the film much longer. But like I said, though, he is still in the film a lot, but he would have been in it even longer, though, if he was like the main central villain, if this wasn't trying so hard to link to Fury Road. But yeah, overall, it's a 3.5 out of 4. This is a really good movie, other than some digital effects shots that look kind of wonky, especially that dog one, which looked bad, and a lack of Chris Hemsworth towards the middle part, and some questionable time jumps and story things. The reason they can't have her escape and everything when she's like hiding out or whatever for all those years before she grows up into Anna Taylor-Joy is, of course, because this is a prequel, and logically she would have been trying to escape during all that time, and logically she probably would have gotten away because she's pretty damn crafty in the movie. So it doesn't really make total sense why she would still be there by the time she's like pretty much an adult. Um, and then by the end of the movie, of course, they're linking the Fury Road where she's going to help the wives escape and everything. And they're going to finally try to get back to the Green Place, which the Green Place is no longer there. I believe it's destroyed in Fury Road when they finally do actually make it there. So yeah, overall, it's a 3.5 out of 4. This is a really good, it's a prequel to Fury Road. And it's kind of bogged down by that a little, but at the same time, it is more of just its own movie, somewhat. And as its own film, like if you compare this to Fury Road, it wouldn't measure up. It would be more of like a 3 out of 4, just like a good movie, but not a great one, or not a really good one. But watching this more is just like its own prequel or whatever, our own spin-off to Fury Road. It's really good. So thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you again.